Welcome, everyone. We're happy you could join us today for the Winter Revolution NJ quarterly update. We're making great progress on several fronts, and today we'll be sharing some opportunities and timelines that we hope you'll all be very excited about. First, we'll take a brief look at today's agenda, which includes a little bit about the Crossroads audio tour launch, Revolution NJ dates of interest, professional development update, working group update, and time for Q&A. We'll start with some inspiring words from Governor Murphy's inaugural address last week that reinforces the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity we have with Revolution NJ. In December 1776, it was in New Jersey where the American Revolution turned and where the American spirit was renewed. We're going to now take a quick look at a little video. Amy?
Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to Princeton?
Yeah, so you take the State Street, then the Quick Bridge Road, and you get...
Wait. It's too complicated. There's got to be an easier way.
Oh, sure. Take a look at this.
Cool.
Visitors and New Jerseyans alike can now use their smartphones to enjoy narrated travels in George Washington's footsteps as the Crossroads of the American Revolution National Heritage Area introduces its 10 Crucial Days audio tour. Travelers will follow the route of key events that turned the tide of the Revolutionary War in the very spots where they happened.
Turn right into the driveway with the wooden fences ahead to enter Princeton Battlefield State Park. On in front of you, the Thomas Clark.
You will hear these events unfold through the experiences of the people who were there, in their own words.
The college is in a very ruinous situation.
Hi, Janice. I'm sorry, just to butt in and tell you that you are muted.
I am muted. Sorry about that. So that was some video from Crossroads' first audio tour, 10 Crucial Days, which was launched just before the 245th anniversary of the event itself. While it's not directly part of the Revolution NJ program, the audio tour is introducing New Jersey's revolutionary story to new people. Over 1,000 users previewed or downloaded the tour in between the soft launch, which was at the Crossing rehearsal on December 12th, and December 31st. And we're continuing to track usage. We've had great coverage of the launch from News 12, WNYC Radio, and NBC 10 in Philadelphia has an interview with Patrick Murray that's going to air this Sunday, January 30th at 11:30 in the morning on At Issue on NBC 10. And we're also going to be profiled as part of a new National Park Service blog. Please look for the Spanish version of 10 Crucial Days soon. And we're already at work on the next audio tour, which is The Road to Morristown. And we are also going to be working on the retreat across the Jerseys with a spur route from Elizabeth to Morristown to tell the story of the battles of Connecticut Farms and Springfield, as well as some really wonderful diverse storylines. The Crossroads audio tour series does include stories of the war's impact on New Jerseyans of all backgrounds and the hard choices they made during the conflict, with accounts of the enslaved, free Blacks, women and children. Heritage travelers will find a deeper, more nuanced understanding of life in New Jersey during the late 18th century. And we're really excited about being able to bring that to you and to people from across the country. We're also obviously moving forward on some really exciting Revolution NJ projects that we're going to be talking to you about today. We've been working very closely with Princeton partners on the logo and branding, and we'll be getting you more information shortly about the use and the process of those usage of the logo and the branding. I'd like to now introduce Sarah Cureton, the Executive Director of the Historical Commission, who will be taking over at this point and talking about things that we're working on. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Janice, and welcome everyone. It's great to see everyone here on a sunny but cold afternoon here in New Jersey. So as you can see, we're excited to share some specific timelines for activities that I know many people have been looking forward to. And the first is, well, the first and I should say the second and third on this slide really all relate to the development of specific programs that Revolution NJ is going to develop and present for this anniversary. So a little bit later in our program today, you're going to hear from one of the co-chairs of our working groups about the work they've been doing. But we also want to announce that anyone who has an idea for a program that they would like Revolution NJ to present, it will have the opportunity to submit some suggestions. So in March, we will be planning an online, we will open an online portal for anyone to submit a suggestion for a Revolution NJ program or event. And our whole goal here is to, by July of this year, so July 4th, 2022, to announce the first batch of Revolution NJ sponsored programs. So we have just a few short months to get that initial list together. We have a lot of work to do, but we're very excited as we dig into that. Now, I wanted to give you a little bit more information about how you might develop and submit a proposal for a Revolution NJ program. And again, we'll have specific information next month on where the portal will be and how to submit. But by all means, if you have an idea for an initiative you'd like to submit, you can get started thinking about it right now. So here are some tips for key elements that you would want to be thinking about to put into your proposal for Revolution NJ. First of all, any project that we would undertake and sponsor needs to relate to our foundational documents, our strategic framework and our interpretive framework. Those are readily available, and right now they live on the Crossroads of the American Revolution site. And you can dip into those and take a look at what our interpretive themes are that we've established and what our goals are for this overall initiative. So that's the first thing you should do, is go there and familiarize yourself with those. We also have recordings of previous quarterly meetings that we've held in which we've gone into more detail about them. Secondly, if you're going to propose to us an idea, it's best to be as specific as possible. So give us a sense of when the event might take place and how long it might last. Maybe it's a one-day event, but maybe it's a series of events that you'd like to propose to us. We would like you to give us an idea of what kind of budget would be required for your proposal and the kinds of resources it would need. Do you need busing? Do you need technology available, etc.? And by the way, be sure to think about both hard costs, like, hey, we need 2 buses for that tour I want to propose, but also the personnel resources that would need to be involved. And then finally, also think about the research needs. Is this a project where over the next couple of years, research would need to be conducted in order to lay a good foundation for the program that you would like to see adopted and presented by Revolution NJ? Now, third, think creatively again about those resources. Do they exist somewhere in a partner organization, for example, that might be able to contribute some resources? Where would the event take place? What kind of facilities would you need? And do you actually have an idea about a facility that would make itself available, et cetera? So do think creatively, as we are all doing, as we think about how we can make some of these great ideas come to life. Fourth, anticipate questions that our team here at Revolution NJ might have. Always great to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has not been talking to you and doesn't have any idea about your proposal, and anticipate what somebody might ask about what you have in mind. And then finally, really critical point here is to think about the audience that your program would be designed to reach. Audience or audiences. Our goal here, as you'll see when you look at our strategic framework, is to reach every New Jerseyan with our programs at Revolution NJ. So thinking about how you're going to reach that target audience and what that audience is will be really important as you propose an idea to us. And remember that we have a high priority here in what we're doing on diversity and inclusion. So think about those audiences that we want to reach that maybe haven't always been reached by a history programming, and in different parts of the state as well that perhaps don't have as much access to programming as others. So those are some key areas, 5 key areas for you to think about if you're wanting to propose an idea for Revolution NJ to sponsor. And we couldn't be more excited about seeing what kinds of ideas that you all come up with. Now, I think I am at this point going to turn the program over to Dr. Mark Lawrence, who is our program coordinator for Revolution NJ. And Mark is going to introduce us to our special guest this afternoon, Michelle Perez, who is one of our co-chairs of the working groups that are working on all of these great ideas. So Mark, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. And it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Michelle Perez, who has been a program officer with AmeriCorps and the Cultural Commission's coordinator for the New Jersey Department of State over the last 3 years. She previously did a fellowship at the United Nations and the Federal Department of State while completing a master's degree at the School of Diplomacy and International Relations at Seton Hall University. She studied political science, anthropology, and philosophy while undergraduate at St. Peter's University. And she's joining us today as a representative of our working groups, specifically our Civic and Community Engagement Working Group. And we thought it would be a great idea to, kind of peel back the layers of what our working groups are doing and just talk about the type of work that's going on behind the scenes, and have Michelle just walk us through her experience working for these working groups. So I'm going to pass it off to Michelle, and if folks have any questions, feel free to type anything into the Q&A for us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to share with you the progress we've made as the Civic and Community Engagement Commission of the working group of the planning stages. And I think that the biggest takeaway from the last couple of months in conversation has been the discussion around the creation of the vision for our working group, primarily because when you think of civic and community engagement, you think of the very people, whether it's present day or the people who were directly affected when it happened by the Civil War, right, the revolution. So just, I think the most impactful, meaningful thing that came about for me personally too is that we all had a resounding yes in our discussion about, what it would mean to tell a diverse and an inclusive story of America's past, right? Who are the voices that we haven't heard from? Who do we not know participated or was directly impacted by the revolution itself? And so in these conversations, we've been invited to imagine and think about the participation of decades and, you know, a richer history of years of diverse participation, both its impact then and its impact to New Jerseyans now. We've also thought about how we're going to demonstrate that, right? What understanding the complexity of our history, then now what happened, everything in between, how are we going to adequately describe that and really tell that story? And so helping us to respond to the present is critical, because it's going to prepare us for the future, right? What will the next 250 years look like? So far, the working group on civic and community engagement has decided on a vision, and it includes fostering new connections that center communities to effectively tell true accounts of our history in an effort to recognize the wholeness of our humanity, experiences, and culture, which I love. With the anthropology background, I think all those three things help us tell a better story, a truthful story, right? We also are centering empowering all New Jerseyans with the necessary resources, knowledge, skills, and platforms to advance our historical understanding while embracing our diversity. And that's another key. Who are we passing the mic to, and who do we need to still get that mic to is critical, right? With platforms and access. Or as we all know, historians we are aware of oral histories being the foreground of knowing about a people's history, right? So who in these communities are we allowing, are we not just allowing, are we just handing the platform to share, right? To tell the truthful story. And finally, to create a state that celebrates the freedom and the liberation of all of its people, as was mentioned in the quote earlier this afternoon. So I'm really excited because now, since we have a vision, since we're all pretty much on strong footing, we're prepared to think of the programs. So this is an invitation for the community, for us as members of this working group, to invite the community, but then also all of you who have joined us today to also contribute. And if listening to this sparked a thought or a suggestion, and you're not entirely sure how to make it up the chain here of working groups, but it's a solid idea, we're embracing new programmatic ideas to think about really that second piece, right? How are we going to demonstrate this complexity to our communities, to New Jersey and the rest of the country, remembering that the whole country is celebrating this, right? And every inch of this country has its own story to tell too. And so, Mark, an invitation now for questions. I'm excited to listen to recommendations, and I'm excited to also share what we come up with in terms of programs, because we'll ultimately be thinking through voting process and deciding as a collective what will really be moving forward with practically, right? I think, Sarah, you mentioned this, what are some of the key resources you'll need, practical resources, so being mindful of that. But if money wasn't an issue, what programs could we really accomplish? And that's really exciting to think about. So
absolutely. And just from sitting in on the meetings that you and Deontay Griffin Quick, who is part of the NJ Theater Alliance, they are co-chairs for this particular working group, alongside Noelle Lorraine Williams at the New Jersey Historical Commission, and Sue Kaufman from Crossroads. Just listening to the conversation folks are having about active partnerships and bringing communities and members into program development at the early stages has just been super inspiring, and just great to hear. We're talking about creating public programming, and the work that the Civic and Community Engagement group is looking at is really trying to change the way, I guess, public programming has been done and how it can be done. Yeah,
it's really inspiring. Deontay's amazing, and his network is in the arts and is has its own unique perspective, and I think that's part of it, right? We all have different backgrounds and interests, and even the entire working group is made up of various interests too. So I agree, like whatever public programming comes out of this is going to be hopefully telling of its very community, right? Or depicting its very community.
Yeah. We have a number of different folks in these groups from all around the New Jersey historical community, right, including Michelle Moon, and we do try to bring in a diverse group of folks who have been doing work in the state to really work with their experience and their networks, and to also just realize that these groups are fluid, right? Everyone, including Michelle, and today, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone's doing this volunteer, right? This isn't, no one's getting paid for this, and everyone is donating their time to help this initiative. And just to see how much volunteer energy there is also has just been super inspiring.
Mhm. Thank you for that point, Nancy. I agree. It's important not to just mention the buzzwords, if you will, or the buzz sites in this case, right? That because I honestly, in any conflict, every inch of where its location, right, occurred is impactful. Or it was impacted by, you know, what happened. So, agreed. Thank you so much. What was interesting too is I remember right before the pandemic when we were still in the office, and Greer and Madeline, who was also formerly in the office, there were several listening sessions, and those were exciting too. This was at before the inception of the project itself, and I distinctly remember listening to the African American community and tribal nations community, the Lenape peoples, the various tribal nations, and just listening to their feedback, knowledge, understanding what they've written down, their oral history, and how we went from just listening then in those listening sessions to now building the foundation really of producing something concrete to honor their stories is like really exciting to see, right? It's one of those things that makes this work beautiful. I think storytelling is when it's done right and it's told truthfully, it's beautiful.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Of course. Thank you, Mark.
And as Michelle mentioned, the door is open for ideas of collaborations, program proposals, things like that. Anything that folks want, definitely please feel free to reach out to us, or we can forward it to the working groups, ideas that might be coming through. And also just to keep an eye out for that public proposal that Sarah was talking about earlier. That's going to be our real, the way in which we're able to interact with all the larger ideas that the public is coming up with.
I think that I know there's a lot of questions coming up in the Q&A, and we do have time for Q&A at the end. So please, please continue to pose them there, and we'll certainly try to address as many as possible once we get through the rest of the presentation.
And I will go back to sharing the screen, and I will be discussing a little bit about our professional development series. You've heard in our past updates that we've been working on creating a number of different programs to help folks really plan and start commemorating the 250th. And we had one of our first panel sessions this past Monday, and the recording should be up on our YouTube page soon. If it's not up yet, it will be up soon. But we had the distinct privilege of having Todd Braisted moderate, Dr. Lucia McMahon and Dr. LaGarrett King, and they were discussing the American Revolution and what that idea means, right? And trying to push beyond just traditional approaches to the American Revolution to show how informative it can be and how much of a consistent struggle for some of the same ideas are still occurring over the past 250 years. We strongly urge folks to attend these sessions. We have 4 more of these coming up, and they're going to be monthly up until May 2022. And the idea of these is to just introduce these larger ideas, these big concepts that you might like tangentially hear in the news, or maybe you see it in some scholars' work. But we want folks to be able to come into these sessions and get a deeper dive into some of these topics and terms that might not be familiar to them, and be provided with the foundational discussions and context of how these ideas and terms can help them develop programming for the 250th. You'll see the links for our future program panels on our website at nj or history.nj.gov. And also, if you click on there, you'll see another professional development series that we've launched last week, which is our webinar series. It's called A Bundle of Silences, Reimagining the Interpretive Approaches to the Past. And here you'll see scholars who looked at our interpretive framework and then were asked to create a 30-minute webinar exploring that interpretive framework in whatever manner they felt they were inspired to. So you'll see some folks who dive really into the American Revolution time period, such as Dr. Gigantino and Dr. Shankman. And then you'll see some folks who look at those ideas that were being fought and thought about through the revolution and see how they have extended throughout the last 250 years of our history. You'll get different approaches, different perspectives. These are folks coming from not just the history background, but also American studies, anthropology, political science. So we're really excited to share this resource. And I'll show you a brief clip right now, actually, of what the webinar looks like. Let me get that launched up. And it might come in a little choppy as the webinar and Zooms, they are a little dependent on internet connection. So please excuse the choppiness. I guarantee it does not look like that on YouTube.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Sweet. I'm a professor in the American Studies Department at Rutgers, New Brunswick. This lecture, entitled Property and Sovereignty, Native Americans in the United States, will examine understandings of Native American sovereignty and the role of the United States in the dispossession of Native American land. We will start by introducing the broader history of interactions between Euro-Americans and Native Americans, which largely centered on theft of Native American lands and the various ways that Native Americans resisted. Next, we will look at the case study of the Lenape people in and around New Jersey. Finally, we will examine how Native American nations continue to fight for their land and resources and fight to maintain their sovereignty today. I want to start off by...
So I will not go too far into it. They are 30 minutes long, but I did want to share that they are now available. And there's multiple ways of accessing it. You can go to our YouTube channel for New Jersey Historical Commission, and that would be a way to look at that playlist. But if you go to our website for history.nj.gov, you'll also see additional resources that are shared. Every scholar in these webinars created an additional readings list and also an FAQ document. So if there are some larger questions that the video might not have addressed, or something that might, spur a topic that is, these scholars typically hear when they finish giving a presentation, it's typically answered in that FAQ document. And for more about this, we will actually be hosting a live event on our Facebook. We'll also have a Zoom link for it. You can register on our website. This is going to be a chat coming on Monday. I will be hosting just a walkthrough the webinar series and kind of walk through a little bit what you heard today, just diving in a little bit more into how we came about creating this and why we felt this would be a good tool for folks to use, and then also how to particularly use this tool in different settings. And I will be open to discussing everything in these webinars. And we're hoping that you can join us. And now I'll pass it off to Sarah for some Q&A.
Thanks, Mark. And I wanted to just answer a couple of the questions that have come in the chat. And the first one was from Nancy, I think, who wanted to know where can you submit an idea for Revolution NJ? And we will be opening up an online portal for you to submit your ideas. And we'll also be sharing a form that you can use to kind of organize your thoughts about your idea. And that's going to be an online portal, and we will open that up in March, but next month in February, we'll be sure to give you, the details on where you can do that submission. So in the meantime, if you want to access any of us as staff resources to bounce an idea off or to get some feedback, any of us are happy to do that. I'm absolutely sure about that. So Mark or myself, Janice, Sue, Amy on the Crossroads team. I mean, we'd be happy if you want to just ask questions or bounce an idea off and give feedback. By all means, reach out, and we're happy to do that informally. But the big submissions are going to come in the March when we open up that online portal. The other item I wanted to just make sure you noticed was that our next entry for the for the Big Ideas series, the next installment in that will be on Friday, February 25th from noon to 1 p.m. And the topic of that one is, what is identity and why does it matter? So in the chat, Chris Myers has put in the link for how to register for that program, and we really hope you'll join us. The first one was a terrific opportunity to really think about these big questions and talk about them. And we hope not only will you join us for the program itself, but you'll continue those conversations about these big ideas with your colleagues, friends, family, and maybe partners who want to develop a program for Revolution NJ. All right, now let me see if there are other questions here that we should address. I want to make sure that you notice that we also have posted in the chat the link to the Bundle of Silences set on YouTube. So it's right there if you have not seen it. But I also want to mention, I've had the privilege of viewing, of course, the whole series, and I really encourage you to do the same. They really complement one another, each individual presentation. They're 30 minutes, so a nice digestible size for you to take in and share also widely. So these are tools for all of us to use as we think about the anniversary and how we want to mark it. And we're just really excited to share those with you. So Barbara Lamort has asked that we post the link to Mark's presentation on Zoom again. Mark, do you want to just maybe put the slide back up for everyone so you can get that? Here, Mark will get that.
There's also a question in Q&A about in-person events in 2022. And I think, the time frame is a little further. We're certainly cognizant of COVID right now, but I think the proposals are slightly longer term, not all the way to 2026, but not necessarily 2022. Can you talk about that time frame a little?
Yes. So the anniversary. So there are lots of. Let me say it this way: there is more than one timeline here when we talk about this particular 250th anniversary. And we here in New Jersey have many years of the American Revolution and activity that took place within what we now know as the state of New Jersey. So Revolution NJ really is looking at the entire span of the revolution in terms of marking some of these really pivotal moments that unfolded here in New Jersey. So, by all means, we want you to think expansively about the kinds of events you might like to propose. We know that there are events that took place before July 4th, 1776 in New Jersey. There were critical events that unfolded here before that pivotal moment. And we certainly know that there are dozens of events that happened in New Jersey. They extended all the way through the duration of the revolution. So we are welcoming ideas for events and activities that might go all the way to 2033. So from 2025, even 2024, all the way to 2033. So think expansively in terms of that timeline. The other thing I might point out, Janice, is that don't be confused by what's going on at the national level. The US Semi-Quincentennial Commission, which is now known as America 250, is very focused on that July 4th, 2026 date. So when you see things coming out at the national level, you are going to see a focus on that date because the legislation that created them actually has them, I think, sunset a year after that. So at the national level, I think they're going to be focused on that July 4th, 2026 time period. But we here in New Jersey, and I'm sure all around the country, are going to be thinking much more expansively about the whole duration of the American Revolution and its impact that extends to the present day. So in person, to get back to the in-person thing, absolutely, I think we encourage you to think about in-person events. We encourage you to think, or activities. Again, it doesn't have to be an event. It could be an activity. It could be some kind of an ongoing program. We're encouraging you to think both about in-person, but also virtual as well.
And if I can sort of address something that came up earlier that Nancy had asked about I was talking about some of the initial audio tours that we're doing, the places that they are going. We're not forgetting all of New Jersey and how New Jersey is a crossroads of the American Revolution. So that certainly is something that's clear. And I think, Sarah, there's also a question about whether we're only focusing on very large events. And I would think what we want to do is focus on innovative ideas and thinking outside the box and thinking big and coming up with some really exciting programs for us to tackle.
Absolutely, Janice. So the big reason why we have focused so much over the last couple of years on creating the interpretive framework and the strategic framework, and now the tools that we just provided to you, which are the Bundle of Silences series, as well as the webinars on the big ideas. The whole idea behind that was giving you some tools to think creatively about what you would like to see here in the state of New Jersey for this anniversary. So as our working groups are using these tools as they come up with concepts, and we encourage anybody who has an idea to use them as well. We put them out to you now in January, knowing that we would open up that public portal for suggestions in March. Hopefully that gives you lots of time to think and to use these resources we've now made available to think creatively and expansively about things you'd like to see happen. And big or small or in between. Janice, let me also point out one other really important point. There will be programs that Revolution NJ sponsors directly, but we also hope that there will be many, many, many more programs that unfold around the state that aren't sponsored directly by Revolution NJ. That use that strategic framework and the interpretive framework that we put out there to create a variety of different programs all around the state. And I do want to point out that the New Jersey Historical Commission's project grant program is open and available to you to apply for funding for some of your ideas this spring. So we do have some grant workshops coming up in February, and I'm happy to give you those dates. The first grant workshop is going to be on February 3rd from 10 a.m. till noon. And the second will be on Monday, February 7th from 1 to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So by all means, if you'd like to think about putting in an application for grant funding from the Historical Commission to develop a program. We are really enthusiastically encouraging you to do that. And by all means, do come to one of those workshops if you want to have an opportunity to speak directly about putting in a grant application. So yeah, there's more than one kind of program that will unfold for this anniversary. And we hope there'll be many, many of them all over the state, both the Revolution NJ sponsors directly, but also that all of you and others around the state prepare and present as part of this overall statewide anniversary. Great, and I see we've got our contact information in the chat. And also, let me refer you to the chat as well, where Greer has very helpfully posted the link to the information about our grant workshops. One more comment about grants for everyone, and that is that the commission, of course, we're not the only source of grant funding in the state, but in terms of history, we are one of the largest. Of course, the Historic Trust also has wonderful grant opportunities for bricks and mortar projects as well as heritage tourism projects. But we have two types of, we have a two-tiered grant program. You can apply for grants directly from us, but we also have money that we provide to each and every one of the 21 counties in New Jersey. So if you have a smaller project, you're more local organization, you should also reach out to your local county Cultural and Heritage Commission and investigate their county history partnership program grants that we support with funding from the state level. So there's more than one way to get funding. So if you're a smaller group, that's a great opportunity there at the county level. And by the way, I think we have on our website the list of the county regrant organizations if you need to find out who the right person is to talk to in your particular county. All right, Janice, do we have any other questions coming in?
Might mention, obviously, that Crossroads is also, James Malchow and I are compiling information about other grant opportunities as well. So we're going to have information as we move forward with some of these great projects. Maybe have some suggestions for that, to supplement that as well going forward. The other thing I do want to mention is people are reaching out to us about wanting to volunteer as we move forward with this. And we're going to be coming up with, a way that people can, let us know that that is of interest to them moving forward. So I think that's kind of exciting as well.
Great. All right, Janice, I'm looking here. I don't see any more questions at the moment. But please, team, correct me if there's something I'm missing here that we haven't, that we didn't get to.
There's one from Peter Primavera that just came in at the end.
Okay. We do have an org chart, if you will, for Revolution NJ, and by all means, we'll work on a way that we could share that with you all, so you can see kind of how we're set up. But so we can definitely do that, Peter. We will, as this year gets forward, we'll also be expanding our communications functions. So look for some exciting announcements in the next few months about additional communications outlets for Revolution NJ, including its own website, which we will certainly be working on this year. So, but we do have an org chart, and we can certainly make that available. I can just briefly sketch it out for you. We have our wonderful working groups. You met one of our co-chairs today. And I think I put in the chat the 5 different working groups we have in action right now. They're going to be proposing, and by the way, that means that's about 100 people involved in working groups right now for Revolution NJ. Then we have an advisory council made up of a diverse group of folks from all different parts of the state, all different backgrounds and areas of expertise. They are advising the working groups and helping to review the proposals that they develop. And then they will recommend those on to our steering committee, which is made up of representatives from both the Historical Commission and Crossroads. And then we do also have an honorary board, which you'll be hearing more about them in the coming weeks and months as well. But that's the general broad strokes outline of how we're working. How did I do there, Janice? Did I forget anything?
I think that's good.
Okay.
There's a question from Annette Erling who's asking how someone can become part of a working group.
Annette, you can by all means, if you would like, and as Janice mentioned, we are going to be compiling rosters of folks who are volunteering to help. So I think it would be great to get, if you're interested, to get your CV in there, because there are going to be multiple ways, multiple roles for people to fulfill. And it may be, in fact, that we have, that there would be a need for additional folks on these working groups. We're trying to keep them at kind of a consistent number so it doesn't get unwieldy. But we do have some fluctuation in folks who, have to step down because they have other things come up in their lives. So, the rosters do change over time. So I think, as Janice was saying, we're going to be collecting folks who'd like to offer their services in different ways for Revolution and J. We'd love to hear about you and to receive your contact information and a little bit more about you so that we can match you up with some really great opportunities to get involved. And Mark, I'm sorry, did you have something you wanted to share now?
I just have the organizational chart if we wanted to see it in a flow.
Sure, if you want to just flash that up, and then we'll make that available somewhere. We'll figure out a place where you can find it. But there you go. Yeah, it's basically
it might be a little out of date, but this is the quickest one I can find. So
yeah, that's it. That's the general idea. And just as I was mentioning, our hardworking working groups, they're working harder than anyone right now. And then the advisory council, the steering committee. Thanks, Mark. That's great.
No worries.
And Peter, we will get a spot where we can make that available online. So that if you want to refer back to it, you can. All right. All right, team, are there any other questions that I overlooked? Let's see. No. Okay, great. I see a question from John Fabiano. Hi, John. Who notes, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, John is one of our terrific county history partnership partners over there in Monmouth County. So nice to have him here. And he did note that you received some outreach from Roger Williams about sharing a contact list of Revolutionary War sites in your county. And John, you're absolutely right. Of course, we have all those sites in the site and visitor assessment report that we've posted online. It lives right now over on the Crossroads of the American Revolution site. So, we do have those lists there and accessible to Roger and to others who would like to refer to them. And anyone, Janice, who would like more information from that study, they certainly could reach out to you at Crossroads, right? And you can provide more information if they need it about that very comprehensive study that we did right at the beginning of this project. But that does have all the sites included, right, Janice?
Yes.
Yeah, about 150 sites there. So happy to share that. All right. I think we did it. I want to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon. And we look forward to giving you another update. Hopefully when the weather is warmer for our spring update. And in the meantime, please do feel free to reach out to any of us if questions arise in the meantime. We are delighted to hear from you and to get you involved. So we look forward to hearing from all of you and to seeing you at the next event, which is actually on Monday for our Facebook Live event. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.